I'm not here defending what anybody chooses to do, but he gave us a little press conference at the state capitol in Pennsylvania in Harrisburg earlier today, and there's a little bit of a follow-up after that. So here's what Governor Shapiro had to say.
We don't know the person's specific motive yet, but we do know a few truths. First, this type of violence is not okay. This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society.
Oh.
And I don't give a damn if it's coming from one particular side or the other, directed at one particular party or another, or one particular person or another. It is not okay. And it has to stop. We have to be better than this. And we have a responsibility to all be better.
The only thing that I will say in Governor Shapiro's defense is that this arsonist apparently went after his family. Now, one can make the argument about whether that's off limits. I believe children are off limits. But in terms of him being a governor and having a problem with what happened with somebody coming after him, let's not forget about this.
Been to the crossing points.
Wrong one.
You move too fast, Kyle.
So what we're watching is this man signing bombs that are going to go be dropped in. I think this was in Russia. I think this was Ukraine, the Ukraine conflict. But he could have just as easily been signing them to go into Gaza. I mean, he doesn't care either way.
What about the women and children that died with you signing these bombs?
See, that's what I was going to say. You say kids are off limits. Does Josh Shapiro know that?
Well, no, I'm saying from my perspective. I'm saying that from our perspective, and the greatest sin, the greatest tragedy of the genocide in Gaza is obviously the mass murder of children. There's no getting around that. However, somebody like Josh Shapiro, who wants to wax poetic on national television about the fact that an arsonist tried to rain terror against him, well, what are you doing here? This is the same thing. So this is why people, I think, in many ways, Nina, are simply done with, the decorum politics. There is something to be said for people who always want to act like this is not who we are. This is not what we do. It kind of is. We are a war-driven economy in so many ways, and we're totally getting a trillion with a T, first ever $1 trillion military budget.
It's insane. That's why we can't have nice things domestically. I do not support the bombing, the trying to kill, trying to hurt any elected official. I hear what you're saying about his family, but trying to kill the governor, it should be off limits too. It should be off limits. Now, I'm glad that you guys showed, because I was going to say, yeah, he signed a warhead. The hypocrisy is really what we're getting at. That's really what you're getting at, the hypocrisy. And people are going to be able to see through it. I mean, who signs a warhead? However, is that I don't subscribe to people trying to settle their differences that way. Not whether it's him or his family. That is wrong to do. That person was wrong. It's against the law. It's morally wrong. This is not how you're supposed to settle the score. Now, the fact that him and others all the time, whether it's this situation or a situation that there was no violence at all, always try to act like this is not who we are. No, this is who we are. This is the nation before it formed, stealing the land from the Native Americans. This is the nation that before it was formed and even after it was formed, enslaved my ancestors. I mean, this is who we are. Violence, war, conquest, empire. That's the part I take exception with Peter and Jen, not him saying this is not the way we should settle it. Maybe he should listen to his own words. And maybe this moment will wake him up. But I do not like the fact that this person, and they got him, came at this man and his family, but came at him even if he didn't have a family. They came at him this way because it's him today. It could be a politician that you guys like tomorrow. This is not how we should. Now, this is who we are now. but this is not how we have to be, and this is not how we should comport ourselves. So no, I could never say that. There are lots of people who don't like me. They don't like my politics, and I know you and Jim would not be happy if somebody came, at me like that, or anybody else.
Trust me, I will never forget how the Zion Nazis came at you, and I will never forget that moment when you broke down in Jen's arms, and that pissed me off.
It was sad. I mean, they were horrible.
Yes, that's true. But we also have to recognize that the human spirit can only withstand so much. You can only be stomped on so many times. You saw constantly throughout many a generation, especially in the Black communities, especially in the Deep South, where they would always tell you, do not fight back, because eventually the people will see that you are right and they won't tolerate it anymore. But there's always outliers. There's always that person who says, I don't want to turn my other cheek to that cracker anymore. I can't do it. I'm not beneath them. And unfortunately, we have developed a system. This is a case system in many ways. The reflection of the average person who looks at what's going on in Gaza, for example, is no different than how they look at people in redlined and block-busted communities all over this country. Yeah, they're not worth it anyway. Yeah, they're not. Who cares about them? They're just cannon fodder anyway. Let them go work in a coal factory in Appalachia. Let them go work on the Keystone Pipeline up in, the Dakotas, because they do see this as a means to an end. It's like the system must continue. If we have to have casualties, then that's acceptable.
I mean, it's definitely the same energy, but you and I are going to have to disagree on whether or not, yes, the human spirit can only take so much. I get all of that. I would still say to people who are fighting a system that, by the way, is not immutable. It was created. We can recreate it. We can create a different one. And so we shouldn't tolerate this kind of stuff. That I don't want to see any individual come after an elected official in the way that this person did. I just don't. And as far as Black people in the South and all of that, there were Black leaders who had a different opinion about that. Remember, Minister Malcolm X was not for the turning of the other cheek and all that. Now, he never advocated violence. He advocated self-defense.
It's by any means necessary. It's by any means necessary.
By any means, but using all resources available. He did not advocate violence, though. The history is wrong on that. What he said to Black people is defend yourself, and that I won't be turning no cheek. If you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. The strategy of the civil rights movement, I think, is misinterpreted. Yes, part of it was if people see the violence and the brutality, it's going to force America to wake up. It takes a certain type of discipline to do what those civil rights leaders, both known and unknown, were able to do. It takes a certain amount of discipline to sit at a lunch counter and see a rabid white mob pour hot coffee on you, or spit on you, or call you the N-word and kick on you and do all the things that we were able to see. Now, they had the benefit of TV, because I don't think, it started to move people to see it, but I think some people were moved more out of embarrassment and not necessarily moved to make the deep-seated change that was necessary in the United States of America. But that is a strategy, that is a tactic. It takes great discipline to be able to do that. That is different, very different from somebody deciding that they don't like an elected official or a leader that much that you're going to try to blow them up, both individually or burn down their house, individually or with a family. So I'm saying, as much as my people have suffered in this country, as much as I have personally suffered and been vilified for standing up for justice, I don't agree with Governor Shapiro on most of his political leanings. I would never want that done to him or anybody else.
Yeah.
Because it absolutely gets us nowhere.
I mean, in my mind, like, I agree. Like, that's not something I'm doing. Like I've always said, I'm not armed. But I am not someone that has nothing left to lose yet. Yet. And every one of these policy decisions that is creating more and more people that have nothing left to lose, that's what's going to happen. So it isn't that I think it's a good plan. I have been saying this since we started this show. They cannot build their moats wide enough. And that isn't because I myself am going to go out armed and hurt somebody. It's because I can read the tea leaves. And the people who are seeing stuff like that, like, honestly, I don't know who did that to him and whether or not we find out or what the investigation is. But like, for example, if my Palestinian family or my Russian family or whatever was annihilated and I'm watching this guy doing what he does and advocating for complete violence across the entire globe, and then you killed my family, I don't know. I'm just saying, it's like, this is where they're pushing us. And the level of violence is determined by the oppressor, not by the oppressed.
Yeah, I get more than one thing can be true at once.
Yes.
While I do understand what you and Peter are saying, and a lot of people feel that way, I'm saying that I don't believe that that is the way to do it. It is not the way to do it. But that for every action, as we learned in science, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There's going to have to be a wake-up call in this country. I don't know what else it's going to take.